is that, but also you had the issue of COVID, which basically reduced migration to zero, James, and now we've got to play catch up, don't we? But what's the ceiling here? Because you let too many folks in, rents jack up, housing continues to become more unaffordable. So again, what's the number here?
Well, Peter, there's no question, as Peter Khalil said, that migration built this country. We're a stronger, richer country today than we would otherwise be if it wasn't for the millions of migrants who've come from all around the world and chose to make Australia home. But the size and the composition and the timing of that migration intake are legitimate areas for public debate. And the government has been very critical. They've had a lot of rhetoric about the migration system. It's time for them to front up and provide some answers. What is their plan? How many people do they intend to bring? How are they going to reduce the numbers of temporary visa holders while also solving the skills shortages? And how are they going to house the people that want to come here when we are facing a housing affordability and rental crisis?
Yeah.
If Claire O'Neill isn't able to provide answers to that today, then really I think we'll all be wondering what the government has been doing for their first year in office if they're not coming up with answers to these problems.
I mean, we had this story a few weeks ago, 650,000 was going to be the number this financial year and last. Is that going to be too many for those reasons, Pete? Rent and housing prices?
Yeah, there's no doubt there are pressures on infrastructure, on housing, rental pressures as well. And James is right in the sense that you've got to get the balance right. My argument, of course, is that, in fact, the previous government increased temporary work visas and actually added to this problem to a certain extent while not increasing or reducing permanent skill migration, which is what we actually need to drive, not just our economy, but our community. As we said, we both agree that it was built on migration, but the type of migration is really, really important. And so, yes, investment in housing. Like, we've got a $10 billion housing fund. Ask James why they're opposing it. I think it's coming up to the Senate. We're trying to find and push through policies that will address some of these pressures, and yet we've got an opposition that will not support that.
Well, why not support it, James?
Well, because we have a very serious budget situation and the government is engaging in a whole series of off-book transactions where they're going to take on billions of dollars of debt for uncertain benefit at a time when interest rates are increasing and rising repayments on that debt is one of the greatest pressures on the budget. I'm very sceptical that that will make any material difference to the housing challenges we face, and it might make the fiscal problems that we face even more serious. I mean, this government's got to be serious about these issues. If they actually want to increase the supply of housing, what are they doing to do that, other than just spending more money, spending more taxpayers' money in an inflated, overheated economy that we're already struggling with the cost of living?
With all due respect, James, what it actually is 30,000 new houses, social and public housing. It's hundreds of millions of dollars to upgrade and maintenance for public housing. It's thousands of new homes for vulnerable Australians like women and children who are fleeing domestic violence, and particularly one of the largest increases in homelessness are women, single women above 55. That is real. And I can't understand. At one hand, you're saying it's off book, it's uncertain. On the other hand, you're saying, we've got to do something about it. Where are these houses going to come from? They're going to come from legislation that we're trying to get through the parliament so that we can get on and invest in those new houses. And you're blocking it.
I didn't know. I'm interested to hear, Peter, that legislation can build houses. Last time I checked, it was people that build houses, and we've got a massive shortage of workers who build houses. We've got a shortage of the key supplies that go into building houses, and that's why the building industry is on the brink. I don't think a new bill through the parliament is going to build a single new home.